Here I am teeing off on the 10th. It's a par 5. It's 480 yards, so there's trouble down the right, so I'm trying to play a draw. The wind's right to left. There's a tree on the left that I'm trying to get past, so I'm trying to hit this one fairly hard. I made good connection and hit a high draw like I wanted to, which left me just past the tree on the left and away from the trouble on the right. The second shot in here, I only had 230 yards, so I was hitting my 3 hybrid. The trouble really is if you miss long, because the green's back to front, so I made sure I just got the distance right. I pulled it a little bit so it's gone left into the bunker, but it still left me a decent chance to get up and down. I hit this bunker shot with a lot of speed to create spin to help it stop in the green. And then it just trickled down the slope next to the hole. So I have this putt for birdie. It's a little bit left to right, and you always want to miss on the high side of anything or play a little bit too much break. So there you see it went in the left hand side of the cup, which was the high side on that particular putt. So for this hole, the wind is the opposite because it's going the opposite direction to the last hole, so it's left to right and the trouble is right. The trees down the left are actually not that thick, but there's a big bunch of trees down the right hand side here, so I want to make sure I aimed left, or a long way left, and played a little fade and just let it trickle back. If anything, you want to miss down the left, but between those two bunkers is just rough. So as you can see, it started over the line of the bunkers there and just came back with the wind. It didn't come back all the way, so I did end up just in the rough here, in between those two bunkers, like I said. But I only had a 9-iron in. It was 130 yards and it was out the rough, so I tried to swing a little bit smoother so I didn't get a flyer. Unfortunately, I did get a bit of a flyer, so I did fly quite far, but the green's back to front, so it did spin back a little bit. But it's better to miss long because the pin was quite close to the front, and if I would miss short or on either side, I would have short-sided myself. So I wanted to make sure I had a lot of green to work with if I was going to miss. On this part, I was just focusing on the pace and getting it to the hole, or near the hole, and making my 2-putt. We could have done with a little bit more pace, but decent putt inside 3 feet, which is the goal from long range. This is a par 4, so this is for par, and to remain 1 under. This is a par 3 12th. It's a short par 3. It's only 142 yards. So it's only a 9-iron, but because it was wet and this hole is playing into the wind, it's going perpendicular to the last hole. So I took an extra club, which is an 8-iron, and when I play into wind, I find it's easier to try and play a slower swing, which brings the height of the shot down, and then try and play a little draw, which takes a bit of the spin off as well. You'll see my finish here will be low and to the left to make sure I got my hands ahead and created a nice low ball flight. It didn't come all the way back, it did hang out a little bit on the right there. The wind did take it, but still on the green, and 2-putt par and move on, worst case. Here my ball stayed in its pitch mark, so I'm just showing the correct way to repair the pitch mark and then replace the ball. From long range, I don't line up my putts usually, but I was just cleaning the ball here and making sure I left it on the blank part of the ball so I didn't have anything distracting me. I then took a walk up to check the slope and pick a good point to line up from. This is generally my routine for mid to short range putts. When it's a long range putt, I just have a brief look at the line and just try and focus on the pace on those putts. But on these putts, I'm looking to make them, so the line is more important. I just about didn't give it enough pace. So still another par to remain 1 under. So this hole is as long as the 10th, but it's only a par 4, and there's a run out at 240 odd yards. So here I just played a hybrid and tried to play a little fade round. This would be what I would call a bogey hole, where you take your bogey and move on and make sure that's the worst, because there's out of bounds down the right, and if you go left you're in the trees, which can cause some problems. So just play a little fade off the tee with a hybrid. As you can see, I came around the dogleg there a little bit, which helped shorten the hole. I had 240 yards in, but it's all the way uphill, and the pin was right at the back. And because there is actually quite a lot of bunkers up there, and if I hit 3-wood, there's a chance that I would have gone long, and if I hit hybrid, it would have stopped straight away on the green. So I decided to just lay up short of that bunker and leave myself 100 yards, which is a good yardage for me and my wedges. When I'm just trying to place the ball, I do hit punch shots because I have more control. So here I had 106 yards, which was a little bit more than what I wanted, and it's a little bit uphill as well. So instead of hitting my 52, I just went to a wedge and hit a little punch wedge. The green slopes severely left to right, so I made sure to give it plenty of break and focus on the pace, because the pace affects the line a lot more on these putts. Again, just not quite enough pace, so that'd be a bogey, and that'd move me back to level par. So here we have the 14th, which is a par 3. It's 185 yards, and it's uphill, and it usually plays into downwind, so that usually cancels out the hill. There's a false front at the obviously at the front of the green. So the important thing here is to take an extra club, which I have. I went from 6-iron up to 5-iron and made sure I carried the slope and gave myself a chance at birdie and worst case 2 putts for par. So the false front is obviously behind me and to the left of the screen here. Therefore this putt was a right to left breaking putt, and I didn't play enough break on it. But where my ball ended up leaves me a straight uphill putt, which are the ones you want from 3 feet. Just be firm with it and make sure it goes in. So now this is the 15th, it's another par 5, but this one's only 470 yards, so this one's very reachable and it's a little bit downhill. The wind is left to right here, and there's no trouble down the left, and the fairway slopes right to left, so usually I just aim down the left hand side of the fairway, let the wind naturally bring it back left to right a little bit because I play quite a neutral shot. I widened my stance and tried to hit this one quite hard just to make sure I had a little small yardage left in. The yardage I had left in was just in between a 4-iron and a hybrid, so I decided that I wouldn't try and hit a 4-iron too hard, because if I didn't do it right, there's water short right, so I just played a 6-iron down there. Again, a punch shot for control to leave me a wedge on, and worst case 2 putt par. Had I not played it sensibly and hit it into the water, then that brings bogey into play, and you don't want that. I didn't quite hit this shot hard enough. It checked up on me a bit when it hit the green, but it still left me a chance at birdie and a comfortable par. So I didn't make the birdie putt, but again, another par, and that would leave me level par for these 6 holes. 2 par 5s, 2 par 4s and 2 par 3s. So there you have how I applied the different shots that I showed on the range to a normal game environment. Here's what's called a bump and run, which I didn't get to use. This is known as the percentage shot, which is the easy way to get the ball near the hole if you've got plenty of green to work with. When you haven't got plenty of green to work with, you have to play a skill shot called a flop shot, which is a high risk shot. This one I played very well, which left me a nice easy putt to make my up and down. But because it's a hard shot, this one I caught a little bit thin, so it flew a little bit further, went a little bit long. And here we have me playing some more bunker shots. I caught that one a little bit fat, hence why I didn't run out as much. So then I adjusted and swung a little bit harder. It still didn't quite get there. So then for this one I swung harder, which created more spin, so I flew it all the way and then stopped it. And rolled down the slope. So thank you for watching. Here are just a few of my achievements from this year.